Good evening and welcome to Season 10, woo, Episode 1 of Inside the Rookery, where we are talking about building a games shop with Dougal. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. No problem, and welcome back, everyone. So, hi, everyone in chat. It is great to be back for our 10th season. As always, we've got a bunch of questions pre-submitted on our Discord server by patrons and our lovely Discord community. But also, as always, please feel free to put your own reflections, thoughts, comments, and questions into chat, and I will bring them up on screen like this. Hello, Suejan. Or not, because StreamYard is not doing that tonight, apparently.
Yeah, let me bring it up. There we go.
Thank you.
Hello, Suejan.
Yeah, so StreamYard has literally just introduced some kind of beta for a new feature, which is actually their old feature, but now, sadly, you need to turn it on. Mr. Mike, yeah, so I can't bring out any of these comments. It's quite annoying. There we go. Mr. Mike, a man simply better than you, very humble. Yep, you've improved in your humblicity since last season. Greetings, comrades. Typically, I'd call you peasants, but it's been a very sad not seeing you every Saturday. We agree. And we are glad to be back. So before I get into the pre-submitted questions, I will hand over to Dougal to say hello and introduce himself to you all.
Hello, I'm Dougal Freir. I own a game shop in Edinburgh called Ancient Robot Games. I've also recently opened up a collaborative workspace for board game and tabletop RPG designers, also in Edinburgh. And yeah, do way too many things, it feels, at this point in time.
And you do a podcast?
We do a podcast for the Ancient Robot Games podcast, again, kind of talking with designers of games, as well as people who run conventions. We've had stuff with psychologists about the psychology of tabletop RPGs and what people actually get out of it. A whole bunch of stuff, which is just the Ancient Robot Games podcast. And we're working on more weird and wonderful things for the future.
That sounds great. I think, Andy Law, you have been a guest on said podcast, have you not?
A guest, yeah. We had a topic in mind and we didn't go there. We did
not?
a bunch of other chat. It was great fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It was a really good chat. It went places I didn't expect, and I think that made it for all the better. And for those of you who are previous watchers, we that podcast goes out with Rob Gelb, who was a guest of ours all the way back in season 8 of episode something or another. So do go check back if you want to see Rob, because he's also on their Ancient Robot podcast. Rob's great.
He is. Right, let us get into the questions. So Lazy Cat asks, and actually the rest of the panel can talk about this because they've both either owned their own shop or worked in a shop as well. So Lazy Cat asks, wait, were you into games when you were young? Did that influence you wanting to own a shop when you were older?
I'm happy to start this. Computer games only, really, for me, up until about my early 20s. And then I was big into comics and RPGs, and I started as an actor ages and ages ago, so anything storytelling-wise. And then was brought in by a guy in a comic book shop down in Bristol going, hey, we've got board games every week. Do you want to come and join? And that kind of immediately opened my eyes to how much games have changed since everything else. We were playing sort of things like Dominion and Ascending Empires and all sorts of things really quickly, and then it kind of sparked a thing of tying game design together with the computer games I already played, with kind of board games and things, and sparked a ridiculous passion where I'm sure we've all been through there. You start with like 1 or 2 games on a shelf, and then you're like, oh, that's really great. Maybe I'll get a couple more, and that's great. And then soon, the biggest problem with moving back from Bristol to Edinburgh was having to have a van specifically for the games to bring them back up. So yeah, that definitely changed things a lot for me.
Do you like living in Bristol? I know a lot of people who live in Bristol, and there seems to be more of a crossover between Edinburgh and Bristol than one might expect for them being on different ends of the country.
Oh yeah, Bristol is the Edinburgh of England, is how I always think about it. It's very multicultural. There's a kind of slightly slower pace of life than the crazy London or other kind of things, and it feels maybe just geographically quite different and more unique than a lot of the kind of flatter cities that are around in the middle of England, things like that. And it kind of just sparks this creativity. I think with a lot of the BBC and acting stuff and the Wallace and Gromit and stuff and things like that. It's kind of driven a lot of creativity into the city itself. So yeah, I loved living in Bristol. I really liked it, but I also love living in Edinburgh. It was really nice. It felt very much like coming home, coming to Edinburgh. Don't think I'll move back, mainly because I'd need probably about a couple of lorries to transport all the games I've got now, as opposed to one van. But yeah, very, very much so.
I have a bunch of my team in my day job in Bristol, and so Lindsay's going on a UK tour later this year to visit all my team. It's going to be great. So yeah, any recommendations for people to do in Bristol in the evening when I'm visiting my team would be very welcome.
Oh, hell yeah. Go see, I mean, Cabot Towers, obviously fantastic. Up at the Clifton Bridge is great. It's been maybe 10 years since I've lived there, so it's I don't know if they're still doing the things. I remember the Hot Air Balloon Festival quite a lot. If you ever get a chance to go, I know that sounds crazy, but there's like 400 hot air balloons in the air for a full like 2 days.
Sounds great.
And it's actually incredible.
That sounds great. When I was a kid, my grandparents lived in Malvern, like just in the shadow of the Malvern Hills, and we would every now and then we'd be down there and we'd see a whole load of hot air balloons, and it was like the highlight of my holidays. So actually, a hot air balloon festival sounds pretty cool. I think there's something about hot air balloons. They're colourful, but there's also an element of danger.
Yes.
What's not to love?
I'd never go up in one. The wicker basket, the idea that there are tiny gaps in that is enough for me to go, I'd fall straight through that. That's a horrifying idea.
No.
I'm going to fall through that wicker basket and die. No.
I'd just be worried. Like, it's that, like, lapel du vide. I'd just be like, I'm just jumping off. I'm just going to do it. There's a cloud there. I'll bounce on it.
Intrusive thoughts side of things as well, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So
while you're doing that, I'm going to answer as well. Did I have games when I was younger? Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I was surrounded by games throughout my tiny years, and the inevitable family gaming that you had through every house across the UK, your Monopolies et al. But from about the age of 10 onwards, I was collecting games like an idiot. And by idiot, I mean, there's a game, I'll buy it. That's not necessarily the best way to decide which games you should buy, but I was 100% that guy. My local art shop, because I lived in a tiny town at the very north of Scotland, was where I gained most of my game supplies from, because well, I bought a lot of them and they kept on stocking them. And that never stopped. And whether that was every Games Workshop game that was ever created ever, .tm, which I did, or alternatively, just all the cool looking games that you'd ever found, whether it was things like Escape from Atlantis, the name alone, I'm buying that. And all the other various dodgy board games that were released by Waddingtons et al. When I was young, I was trying them all out. And some of them were actually genuinely great games, even when they were the mass-produced. We're just trying to make a buck out of the kids type games. Some of them very clearly weren't. I have fond memories of a game called Thunder Road, which was when I must be about 14 when that was released, which was a real sort of Car Wars equivalent. Very much a dark future, but made by a big mass-producing board game. I think it was Waddingtons who released that one.
Is that like they were trying to rip off Mad Max?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. But interestingly, there's a Thunder Road out now that's really good. It's excellent. It's
Thunder Road Vendetta. Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I guess maybe they owned the name, so just thought, oh, let's make a new one. But it's really good.
Oh, there you go. So yes, for me, and then I ended up opening my first game store when I was 16. A very, very young age to be opening a store, which was legally dubious, apparently, because I could not be held accountable for certain debts until I was 18. But nevertheless, I did it because I could. And then I just went on from that and continued on doing gamings and making games. Good times.
Mr. Mike, I think we've talked about this before on stream about Monopoly. So pox upon Monopoly. I've seen that thing break families and shatter neighborhoods. Surprised the thing isn't considered terrorism. And we have got into other streams like that Monopoly literally wasn't really designed to be a game. It was designed to show you how, like
how bad
housing works.
capitalism is.
How bad capitalism is. But actually, I have super fond memories of Monopoly because we used to play it in this holiday cottage we would go to in the Highlands, and there wasn't much to do in that cottage, which contributed to this. And a bunch, like about four kids, but all of different ages, like so 7, 8, 14, 15 would play Monopoly. And I actually really loved Monopoly because it wasn't about the bit where it got shit and someone had like built a fuck ton of houses and you paid rent. It was about like the excitement of collection at the start. Like, what would you land on, and would you get one of your favorite properties? I obviously like, you know, the pinks and the oranges because they're the best. Because you times everything by 100, and I was 7 and I didn't like doing maths. To work out how to build your houses, and like it was quite an enjoyable game to play for kids.
So how competitive is your family? That's my question, because my family is massively competitive, and that caused our Monopoly issues.
Our family was very competitive, but we were on holiday with a different family, and the kids from the other family were older. So the Monopoly game wasn't competitive. The adults played Scrabble downstairs, and that was very competitive. So both of these families were highly competitive families, but there was just a consensus because it was a 14 and a like 16-year-old playing with a 7 and an 8-year-old. It was about like, well, let's be blunt, it was free childcare for the Scrabble playing parents of mine that were downstairs because I was the 7-year-old. So it was just like a fun thing to do. Whereas I think like later Trivial Pursuit in my family was incredibly competitive, and every other game was competitive, but those Monopoly games were really sweet.
There you go. I'll have to admit, my family games of Monopoly were also really good, but that was only because my dad always won. And I do mean always. Without invariably, and it wasn't just that he was competitive. Well, it was, but because it was such an expected thing, it was fine, and he was always helping others out, and that went all the way through from up till I was about 15. The last time I probably played Monopoly with him, we're still the bugger won. And it wasn't because he was luckier. I don't know. Maybe he was just silver-tongued and he managed to make good deals with everyone. Who knows?
He the banker? Was he the banker?
No, that was often divested to my mum, who hated playing Monopoly because she never won. And I do mean never.
I was going to accuse your dad, although I know your dad, he would not be a cheat. I was going to accuse him of just like, he was the banker, like he was scamming.
Yeah, totally. But no, he didn't. He was, and because of that, it wasn't really, as you say, it wasn't really the competitive thing that it was for everyone else. It was much more of a family get together, collect up the stuff. We didn't do it that often because, let's be honest, he won all the time and it wasn't so much fun. And other games that we played were much, much more competitive. But the family game of Monopoly for us was surprisingly good. It's one of the reasons why Mr. Mike's comment here, whilst I completely agree with it, I'll pox on that game because it has put many, many people off it. Yeah, exactly. Loads of people love it, and there's no bad, wrong fun. And like, if you love the game, go wild.
When me and my brother were playing it by ourselves between the ages of 7 and 10, we would often just play it till we'd collected all the properties and then start again because that was the fun bit. Like, we got all
nice.
Yeah, I think I can count on one hand the number of games of Monopoly we played to
You've actually finished, yeah.
You always are like, oh, you're going to win, so let's just stop now and move on to something else.
Yeah.
Oh no, my very, very competitive family were like, we are playing this till the end, and I'm going to do this. The next hour and a half, we're sitting here watching your brother get more money, and you're gonna deal with that and be okay with it. It's literally what I think. The more you get into like game design and how games work and how to win, someone said something to me in the shop the other day, which is, if nobody buys anything in Monopoly, everybody just makes more money because you keep going around making money, making money, making money, and everyone wins. And I was like, oh yeah, I never actually put that together. But a game where the best way to play it is to not use any of the mechanics in the game is a very interesting game to talk about at the very least.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Mr. Mike, the banker has to be someone not in the game for safety reasons. I think like, there's always someone who was a banker and you would trust them. But again, going back to like 7 and 8 and 14 and 15, once inevitably one of the 7 or 8-year-olds went out, it was a great like treat to then be allowed to be the banker and give out the money to everyone. So like there's no bad, wrong fun, and we found ways to make Monopoly a much more fun game than Monopoly like is.
Yeah.
So I much preferred the was it Go for Broke? which is like the inverse one where you had to lose all of your money. We had that as well, and I much preferred playing that. I don't know.
We played the game of
but yeah.
We played Game of Life, you know, the one where you had your little cars and you had to pick business route or and this tells you a lot about me and my friend. We were maybe like 10 or 11. And what we would do is, because we were always just playing it together, me and this girl, we would get to the end, and whoever got like the little townhouse and whoever got then the big country house, we would ditch our husbands and we would just like move ourselves into one car, take all the kids and move into the big house. So that's how Game of Life ended every time, in a lesbian love affair.
Or with Hosier playing as soundtrack, presumably. Yeah,
we didn't murder them. I mean, they probably shacked up in the little country house, if we view it in the nicest possible way.
You said that in a very suspicious way that makes me think you definitively murdered them every time.
Yeah, like
it wasn't us.
That until you said it, Lindsay. Nobody thought you had. But now,
don't look at the suspicious mounds of dirt in the back. I don't know what you're talking about. That's got nothing to do with me.
The country house.
Yeah, because what we would do is, first of all, we would lie them down, like in those little cars. You could lie people down horizontally in like the boot bit, and then we would kind of just put them in the garden. So, like, I think we did murder them, to be fair.
Yeah, they're so dead.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. It was a slaughter, time after time.
Oh, hilarious.
Right, so let's move on to today's topic. Martin asked, why open a games shop? Is it viable in this day and age? Just coming right at you there, Martin.
Yeah, right? That is like, well, why did you make your decisions you made in your life? Very interesting. For me, it's a thing of like, I always loved games. I always did so many bits and pieces with it. I did play some board games when I was younger, don't get me wrong, but it never became a big part of my life until my early 20s. And then I kept playing more games. I got a little bit involved in some game design with a couple of games out there and tried to help out with a few things, play testing and stat stuff and editing some rule books and things like that for various people in Edinburgh and also Berlin and a few other places. But I was really kind of like everyone else. I was just doing jobs. I trained as an actor originally, which meant that I did very little acting and worked in tourism, as almost every actor I know, to be honest, who isn't a big actor does. So I worked in tourism for a long, long time and got to know people really well. And then I was working on a game and I went in to talk to a bookshop owner who's opening up a bookshop and said, "Oh, have you thought about doing games here?" And he ended up having we had a coffee, basically invited me out for a coffee. We sat and chatted about board games for 2 hours and they went, "Right, do you want to do board game nights at my shop?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I got a job and I was just working in the bookshop most of the time. And then we started doing board game evenings there, which was once every 2 weeks. And I moved maybe 80 to 100 games into the bookshop's back room so I could pull them out once every 2 weeks, which became once every week. And we were getting 40 people arriving every time to come and play board games. So I was teaching more and more of these board games, which I was used to doing from conventions and stuff anyway. But interestingly enough, a couple of doors up from that was a kind of empty space that had been empty retail wise for a long time, 3 or 4 years. And it just seemed like the perfect space that would be nice to have a game shop and a play space. Most important thing for me is somewhere that people can come and enjoy themselves. And I didn't have the space to play games with my friends anyway. And I was like, well, it's really annoying. There's nothing in this side of the city. And went, oh, you know what? Why don't I just do this? I'll look into it and I'll see what happens. Chat with this other guy who was running the games section of Blackwell's at the time up in Edinburgh, and went, would you, if I theoretically open a shop, would you come and work for me? He was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I did a few things and I talked to a few people, and within 4 days I got back to him and went, right, we're opening shop. And 5 months later, the shop was open. So for me, it was a thing of, it's something I loved, something I had passion in, something I knew I could do. I love new games and getting more people to play games, because the industry's changed so much and it's more accessible than it ever has been. There's so many games about cats and quilting and, you know, not just murder or property management, which makes me really happy that those all exist, because there's so many different things for different people. And I just really wanted to show that to folk and have them come in and play stuff. And I just ran at it. It's one of the few things in my life that I knew if I stayed and I thought about it too long, I'd do what I did with a lot of things, and I'd freak out and go, "Oh, that sounds too stressful, and let's not bother doing it." So I closed my eyes and I ran at it, and it worked out because we already had the knowledge that at least 40 people every 2 weeks would want to come and play games.
Yeah.
Maybe they would want to do it more often, and it meant I could do the thing which I loved, which is I used to always go into every game shop and scour every single game on the shelf and see all of the cool things and be like, "Oh, wow, that's great," and maybe pick up some and maybe not. And it allowed me to get into that from the back and see all the cool things that were coming out and do some like preemptive playtesting or looking into the games and stuff and kind of figure out what I think will be good or what the kind of spark is for certain games coming out, and make sure I only got those games into the shop and not have to. I could sell 30 different types of Monopoly, Star Wars Monopoly, and all these other bits and pieces, but I don't want to because I know that there's some really interesting games that's going to spark someone's creativity and get them socially involved with other people. And I'd much rather get those in and sell games that I know are good and never have to feel guilty. I always, whenever I worked in a shop, I always, when someone would buy something and I knew it wasn't very good, I'd be like, "Oh, I feel a bit broken inside." Now I get to sell only the things that I like, which means I like too many things because the shops are absolutely stacked full at the
So
moment.
have you
But
played every single game in your shop that you sell?
I wish. What I've done is I know how every game in the shop plays.
Yeah.
I know roughly what it is doing mechanically. I know roughly who it's made by and what their goal is for the atmosphere of the game. I've probably played maybe about 30 to 40% of the stuff that's in the shop.
It's still a lot.
But yeah. Oh, it's way too much. I'm surprised I did anything else between the age of 20 and 30 by the amount of games that have been played. But it's given me a big range of stuff. So when something new comes in and I can look at it and do a bit of research about it, it will be like, great. I know how to read a rule book, for example, and pick out the bits that are necessary and go, "Oh, I wonder how that would feel to play," and kind of go through it. It just makes it really easy when someone is in a shop going, "What's this about?" for me to actually be able to tell them and also possibly teach them the game if they come and play on the tables, which is great. Is it viable? Yes.
Hooray!
More people are playing games now than ever before. It is not a huge money-making scheme. It is not. It's an interesting thing. I say to lots of people, don't start a small business to make money. It's not a wise choice. Start it because you love the community and you want to bring more people happiness. It works and it pays its rent, and I get to have amazing staff who are going to be there all the time, which means we do get things like being open 7 days a week, so everyone can always come and play a game. But I don't think it's like it's not something that's going to build a fortune. And I can retire in 2 years because we've sold all the games and it's all great. But it is definitely a viable industry to be in because there's so many cool things coming out all the time.
Do you think a part of it being a viable business is that it's not like most of the now dying stores on the high street because it's a service as well as a retail outlet? So you're doing something like, say, for example, a hairdresser might do, in that you're providing something that people want to do as well as providing the games. One of the reasons Games Workshop, for example, was always a little more successful than it might have been, particularly during some of the darker years, was because they were offering services, a place to play. Do you think that's one of the reasons that it's still working?
Hugely. I think the pandemic, weirdly enough, has done a huge amount for that, with the idea of people wanting to do something sociable. And I think they had enough of just having to do it while drinking as well. Like drinking while playing games is awesome, but it's a thing of, I think during the pandemic, a lot of people were drinking at 10 in the morning and they were like, I did all that for 2 years. I'm probably done with that for a little bit. How do I socialize outside of that? So games are a great focus to bring a social group together.
Yeah.
We also used to play. We would sometimes meet our friends and play in pubs, and I actually hate playing in a pub because so many things are out of your control. The noise level, the crowded level, whether the table is sticky, like people, like I just hate playing games in pubs.
It's
not
difficult
like a
situation.
Yeah, it's not like the ideal game playing environment for me. I know like a lot of people do. How important is the location?
Hugely. For us, I think we were incredibly lucky. We have something which very few games and play space shops have had that I've seen, which is big windows on a main street.
Yeah.
So the big windows mean not only can people see us, but we actually get natural light in, which seems to be quite alien to a lot of board game play spaces. I mean, we all grew up playing in basically basements and dungeons. It's what we were there for, but because it's become more accessible as an industry, having a more accessible front is actually been a huge benefit for people just being able to come in and not feel like they're walking into a Wild West saloon and everyone looks at them very uncomfortably like they're the stranger in there. It's we've been very lucky being just on Leith Walk itself, with the trams coming back up as well, which has just meant we've had more and more people come in, and we've had a lot of people. They've just come from the airport. They've come in, they've been on the tram going to their destination, and they went, "Oh, I saw your sign and I had to come in," because which I don't think a lot of game shops get that kind of in the center of things spacing. They're always hidden off to a side, which is not really where the industry is right now. And we're just incredibly lucky to be able to have that side of things for sure. Yeah, I think it's all been a perfect timing and perfect placement for the shop itself to have been able to continue. Yeah.
So here's
one other question. Can I just ask one other thing? How much do you think it's benefited having the large car park right beside you as well? Because that's something that you definitely have.
It's a weird one,
or is it
because
not?
it is, but it's also not, because that car park is a big Tesco's car park, and it has a very specific time limit where you will get tickets if you're there longer. So for some people, it's great because they know the exact timing they're going to be there. But an awful lot of the time, I don't think it's ideal. I would love to have more car parking in that side of Edinburgh. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
cool. Sorry for interrupting there.
On that, I certainly wouldn't, advocate for civil disobedience. But as far as I'm aware, those fines are variable in how enforceable they are. Just do research. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so Epic Pixelation, this is from the YouTube comments, has asked the biggest challenge in opening the shop.
I think it's the biggest challenge in pretty much any industry, which is all the admin, logistics, and kind of monetary stuff that go behind it. It was quite stressful at first. Weirdly enough, I think this industry over any other industry is so focused on helping each other. I don't know any who's in game design, game distribution, even the retailers who are like, no, I want mine and I don't want you to have yours. I think everyone I know, huge help from the bookshop just down the road, Argonaut Books, from Steve and Liam at Black Lion Games, also amazing game shop in Edinburgh, like massive help from them in figuring out distribution and how to get all that sorted. And that was amazing. And because, so that wasn't too bad, but all of the admin, the staff, finding the right staff, again, incredibly lucky. My staff are amazing people and fantastic at what they do, and all interested in different things, which just helps so much and teach people stuff. But the challenge was never the thing I thought it was, which is the games and the knowledge of games. Because if you have a passion about something, it sinks in. It's like, I don't remember any of geography or chemistry from when I was at school, but I can tell you all the rules for, the 150 games of the board games library. That's not a problem, which I thought was going to be the issue with too many games coming in. The issues have been things like, what do you do when the toilet floods? Oh no, now you got to work it out. How much is that going to cost? Which happened the 2 days before the shop opened. What do you do when some of the ceiling falls in? Which happened a week before the shop opened. Like those little things that are there that you just don't know you don't know. And then all the admin behind VAT gets me every time. It's a weird thing. It's not the easy, this is 20% of what we make, we've got to pay. It's 20% of what we make that we pay, but also offset by the 20% that we paid already off the trade price. There's a whole bunch of weird things going on with all of that. And keeping on top of stuff. There's always someone who comes in every week who goes, oh, what about this game? And I have to go, I've never heard of that. And suddenly finding something that's really cool. And it annoys me. That's my personal challenge, because I want to know every game and all the things, and I want to be able to tell everyone everything. But practically, definitely admin and logistics. Everything else has been great. People are amazing.
In my last job, a load of my graduates were all doing their chartered accountancy exams, and there was a reason that tax was famous as being the hardest, the one that people failed the most because it was so complicated, too complicated, in fact. I think that Ancient Robot Games has got such a loyal following in Edinburgh too. Like when we were just saying to our friends, oh, we're doing that, they were like, oh, I love Ancient Robot, I love that shop. And when Andy and Lisa and I were at Chimera Festival and we were there demoing Dark Deeds, obligatory mention of our game, Dark Deeds. We would be like, and so do you want to buy the game? And people were like, does Ancient Robot have it? Can I buy it from them? Which was adorable. It was the cutest thing I've ever heard.
And yes, you can buy it at Ancient Robot Games. Just down the road.
One person. It was literally 5 or 6 people were like, no, sorry, I'd love to support you, but I buy all my games from Ancient Robot Games, so talk to them first.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's been amazing. The community thing, you open a shop going, I love this hobby. I hope other people do. Maybe I'm being foolish and opening this thing. And within 2 weeks, there was hundreds of people who had come through already. And it blew my mind that it seemed like people just wanted a place in that part of Edinburgh to find a community. And the biggest thing for me actually was which sounds really crazy, but they're the weekday magic goblins, which they have asked to be called that. They come in and play Magic the Gathering, but they come in during the week, in the afternoon, and they just come and have a really chill time. And they started things like Baby Magic, which is to teach people who are new to Magic the Gathering in a friendly, accessible space where they can spend 4 hours going over the game and not having to worry about not knowing triggers and not knowing what these cards do and not knowing what this is. And that community has spread as well. So now it's become the place to go to, not for the incredibly competitive side of the scene, but instead to be a place that is new people, or this is something I want to get someone else into, and they can bring it into that, which is with our weekly events that we do for board games and RPGs particularly. Everyone wants to play Dungeons and Dragons. If you've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, how are you meant to do that? And it's we've got that space for that. And there's always 3 or 4 new people every single time we do it. And it's kind of, it's the best thing. I'm so pleased that our community still wants to keep coming. That's the best thing.
And do you have a cafe so people can buy food and drink in the shop? Do you think that's an important part of running a game shop?
I think that's an interesting one. I think having a play space is really useful because people can try a game and then possibly buy it, or at least figure out what sort of game they like. And it gives them the kind of the cheap way to get some fun. But the cafe, I think I have a coffee machine there because I need caffeine to survive. And I'm kind enough to share that with other people for money. I think a coffee thing is really good. It keeps people engaged, particularly if you're open at 10:30 in the morning. Someone's going to need coffee at 10:30 in the morning. That's a good thing. I was very worried about becoming a coffee shop. That was my biggest fear. Never happened. Really, really lucky. We have smaller cakes and things that are done by a local baker, Abby's Pantry, who are incredible, but only kind of 3 or 4 different things, because all of the space that we can take up with games, we take up with games. So there's just enough space for 3 different types of cake and some soft drinks, and we make coffees, have a nice coffee machine and things like that. And we get coffee from just over the road as well. Artisan Roast, fantastic place. But it's not, I don't know how necessary it is. I wouldn't have wanted to do it without it personally, for that caffeine, but also I think it's a good way to have people come and feel comfortable in a space. You know that you can sit down, have a drink or something.
So if I think of coming into Ancient Robot compared to going into the bookshop I really like at the top of Leaf Walk, what's it called? Toppings?
Toppings?
It's got a weird name because you always think it's going to be an ice cream shop and then it's a bookshop. And not to be blunt, I'm always a bit disappointed. They don't have a space. They're called you should have a space that I can sit and I don't know. I feel like it makes a space more welcoming. if you walk in, and it makes you feel like there's maybe some psychological thing about fuel that then makes you feel like you could stay there for longer. Whereas if a shop doesn't have that, again, you're kind of like in and you look and then you're done.
Standing around, feeling like an imposition, not entirely sure what you should be doing now. And unless you're that person who just can't help but talk and talk and talk and talk to the staff, your time is done. It's time to go. Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, I like to go into a bookshop with a cafe because I just like to be among the books. And they really frown on you taking like your own food and drink into libraries. So
yeah, that's ridiculous. You should be able to rent out food and drink from libraries at the same time as books. I mean, it's a rental place. I don't see why that wouldn't work. It's something I learned from the bookshop just over down the road. As I say, huge kind of shout outs to Adam at Argonaut Books, because he had coffee there and I saw what it did for the community. And I learned so much from him about how to even open a shop and things like that. And the coffee was a big part of like, oh, people love the space because they get to spend time there.
Yeah. So Mornington Crescent says there's a store in my hometown that has coffee, and I see parents getting a coffee while their kid browses a lot if they're not involved in the hobby. It relaxes people, so I'm normalizing things. I just honestly, when the guys are working at Games Workshop, I was just like, why don't they have a cafe? And this was before board game cafes were a thing. And I was always like, it just seems like the most obvious thing to do is also have a cafe for like the parents or the big brother or sister who's like dropping the kid off. Like, so yeah, I always thought it was really weird. I mean, maybe Games Workshop weren't really into like becoming a coffee shop chain, to be fair to them, but
I think it's one of those areas where America was far ahead of us on that, possibly because real estate is so much cheaper. But when I went over and worked over there in the late 90s, like all the independent game stores I went to, they all offered something, and some of them it was just like, you know, packets of crisps and bottles of like fizzy juice, but then some of them had like full cafes and kitchens, and some of them did pizzas. And, you know, they all, and it was exactly that. We wanted people to come in and spend time in the space. It wasn't just about shifting product. It was about keeping people there and building a community.
Epic Pixelation asks, what's your dream team staff-wise? Do they all have to be super into board games?
This is really interesting because somehow through interviewing a few people, all of the staff members I have are focused on specific things, and they're all different things. So it means that any weaknesses that anyone has is covered by someone else. I think super into board games is not necessary in the same way as any industry. I think you're crazy if you open a shop just loving the thing. Well, I could have just stopped there, to be honest. You're crazy if you open a shop, but no, you're crazy if you open a shop just loving the thing you sell. You have to like people. It's every industry is really a people industry, and being able to communicate with someone is by far the most important thing in anything that you're doing staff-wise. So I think not necessarily super into board games, but at least being able to understand and communicate with people about board games is a big thing. Most of my staff are super into board games because they've spent time with me more than anything else, and I forced them to play a lot of games, and now they're into it. But we have like a couple of members of staff who are hugely into Warhammer and the miniatures side of games, from everything from kind of Malifaux and Carnival through to all the Games Workshop stuff. We have a couple of members of staff who are super into RPGs in a massive way, including all the indie stuff and telling me about cool indie things that I would never have heard of otherwise. And then we have myself and a couple of other members of staff who are massively into the board game side of stuff too. But it all kind of crosses over. Everyone has little bits and pieces that they know. So it means that there's always someone going, oh, did you see this cool thing that they know that no one else does? And that shares that knowledge between people. We have people who are fantastic at making coffee. Not me. I'm not one of them. If you get a coffee from me, I do apologize in advance. And also admin. That's a big part of the job too. I don't know what I would do without the one or two people in my staff who know how Excel works to the most base level of everything Excel can do, and it just makes everything so much better. So no, I think dream team of staff wise is staff who can get on with each other and who can get on with other people as much as anything and have passion, even if it's not passion of games itself, but just passion in general.
I have a leadership what's the word, like, philosophy, and that is that my team's like my family. And some people, when they hear that, they think like that means that you can't expect like high standards and people to be good at their job. And I quickly say, like, well, no, because my family are who I have like the highest expectations of. But also, like, I think it's really important for your team to feel like a family that work together, that do expect those high standards of each other and wouldn't just like leave each other, you know, in the lurch.
I mean, the hardest part is letting go. When you build something yourself personally and you're like, I am involved in every single part of this, to then have to go, okay, wait, these people know what they're doing. I need to step back on a couple of these things and let them do it. And if there are mistakes made, that's okay. That was the biggest learning curve for me personally. But they were all amazing and kept telling me I needed to stop doing stuff. So that actually really helped, I think, more than anything else.
Mr. Mike, I'm glad you mentioned Games Workshop, because Mr. Mike is a big Horus Heresy fan and always tries to build in a Horus Heresy question. I look forward to them. That is on topic. It's a challenge today. So getting the Horus Heresy and silly question in one swoop. If I hurled an army of Chaos Astartes cultists, etc., at your shop, would it become Holy Terra 2.0 with mighty walls and soldiers, or still just a shop?
I have always worried about something like this, and it means we would need to block up the windows. The windows are our most vulnerable point. They are secure windows that used to be like part of a bank, but no, windows first, they would need to be blocked up. Outside of that, it will be a haven for all, and I already have some like broken chairs and things to use as some sort of barricade at the front with spiked things. So I think it's where I'm planning on going in some sort of nuclear apocalypse. So come and join if, Horus Heresy Chaos Astartes arrive as well. I will rely on you as well, specifically Mr. Mike, to come in and help out as much as possible. But Chaos Astartes might not be able to get through the door. That's the only thing. They are much taller than a regular human. They might be able to break through it, but there are stone walls. We'll do what we can. That's all I will say at this point.
I think they'd probably go for Tesco. It's got big doors, so you could probably buy some time by channeling them to the Tesco's.
That's true. We could even drill through the walls and get past the kids' play area and then get into Tesco's ourselves to get supplies in. Yeah, we can make this work, actually. I don't see why not.
Bro's going to become Rogaldor. Right, okay. Oh, this would actually, a zombie survival guide for gamers would be pretty cool. Right, have you ever had to ban anyone from the shop?
Yes, unfortunately. That is only been a couple of times due to very uncomfortable things, certain regulars and things feeling uncomfortable about someone doing something that I feel is not right in this industry as well. Particularly with it being so accessible, we're incredibly LGBTQ plus friendly, and having someone be bigoted or racist is not something that we'll have as part of our event nights. Only 2 people in almost 2.5 years. So I think that's good. And it was very, very rare bits and pieces.
So that kind of answers this question. Did they say what year it opened? I lived on Leithwalk when I worked in Edinburgh. So 2.5 years ago. What is it?
2.5 years ago. So May in 2023. Yes.
And what if you don't drink tea or coffee? Do they provide juice and smoothies?
Yeah, we got soft drinks, lots of different types of soft drinks. We have water, which is available from a tap.
American.
I'm so sorry. Oof, it's crazy. But no, the one thing, I don't want anyone to starve or dehydrate while they're playing games. So you're always allowed to bring in any food and drink that you'd like from outside. Yeah, of course.
Martinez, what was the motivation to open the game design space? And where is that near the shop? It's like over the road, up the road a bit?
Just up the road a bit. It's in the red sandstone building. So it's still on Leithwalk. That was a weird one. That was Gelb, Robert Gelb, who we were talking about earlier, fantastic guy, amazing board game designer as well. We were talking a lot about games and things, and we had this discussion about what our dreams would be. And his dream was to have a space where people could collaborate and board game designers and things could work together. And I was like, that sounds like a great dream, and I kind of have that a little bit too. What if we do it? And then 2.5 months later, we'd open a collaborative. So it's getting shorter every time, basically. Me and my partner had just come back from holiday, and it was the first holiday we'd had in 2 years. And then she went, "So you've opened another shop? So we're not going to go on holiday then for another 2 years?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't think about that." Yeah. I love game design. I was in the background of it, as I say, before I opened the shop with the editing and the playtest and things like that. I had so many game designers come into the shop, and then I would get their games. I always like getting independent games from the people who make them, but I had so many come into the shop, and I was like, "Oh, great. Do you know such and such?" And at least half the time they were like, "Oh, I didn't know there was anyone else who makes game design." And it was very infuriating because they're all
Yeah.
so creative and wonderful, and they all were like, "Oh, how do I get this thing out there?" And I just wanted to smush them in a room and get them to make stuff. So especially artists and graphic designers and things are massively needed in board games at the moment. So getting more of those together with game designers was like a big dream of mine. So yeah, that was it as much as anything, was to see so many people who were all doing it on their own. And it's hard to do on your own. Any creative thing, it's hard to do on your own, especially with a game that needs playtest, that needs feedback, that needs someone else getting involved, even just to go, you've misspelled that. It's really
Yeah.
important. So I wanted that space, and to have somewhere where people could 3D print prototype components. They would know that there was playtesting and prototyping going on, and more importantly, that there was other professional game designers there that they could trust to then show something to someone else and go, "What do you think of this?"
Wouldn't
Which is
wouldn't it be amazing to have an audio visual studio space that you could video people like playing your games in, and maybe also like live stream your actual play once a week on a Friday, Andy Law? Isn't that what we need in Edinburgh?
Sure. Yeah, it wouldn't be that hard to set up.
We just need to find the place.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. We were again very lucky and just hit the right time, the right things of everything going. And Robert Gale has done a majority of the work, so he helped set everything up, and it's been amazing. It's just been cool seeing more games being made in Edinburgh. I want Edinburgh to be the hub of games design, because there isn't really one for board games or tabletop RPGs in the UK. There's lots of bits in separate places, lots of cool playtest groups, but having one city where people go, "Oh, I really want to work on board games. You should move to Edinburgh. There's all of this stuff going on." I think because there's a bunch of really cool game design studios here. The Eerie Idol guys, you've got Tetix Games, judge them from that. Midnight Trading Company, Gale's one. There's just so much going on and so much creativity.
Rookery.
Bring it together. Oh, yeah, exactly. The Rookery, exactly. I've asked you. You want to hire out the space to use it. So it said, come in. No, it's really cool to have so many things here. So let people know that, and also have that in a space where they can feel comfortable and spread the word and work in a workspace that hopefully doesn't cost very much money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the key is the location. But in all seriousness, what would be good is being able to set up like the top down like audio visual setup, so you can demo your games and you can like make those videos more easily, because it's a real pain to set up yourself.
Yeah, so we got the space for that in our little meetings room thing. We've got that kind of things. We just would have to put up the camera and set that up, which is already on the list of things to do. So I think that's going to be in the next couple of months. That'll be set up for sure.
Exciting. So, who was your favorite guest for your podcast?
This guy. I don't know if your screens are the same as mine, but yes, Andy Law was fantastic. Dream of mine, because I used to. I was into Warhammer when I was a kid, and then being able to talk to Andy about all of the names of the people who I read like age 10, and going, "Oh my God, that's so cool. And you did that with these people." And that was, so for me personally, that was really exciting, because I got to find out all of the interesting behind the scenes stuff that I really, really wanted to know. But it's been great to also have, we had Dave Beck from Paverson Games, who made Distilled, which is based on whiskey he was drinking while he was in Edinburgh, despite the fact he's from Wisconsin. I think it was Wisconsin, yes. He was absolutely lovely. I really enjoyed having Joe in, who was a psychologist, who was talking about the psychology of RPGs. And personally, as someone who runs RPGs, that was crazy interesting because it was the thing of how do you know if anyone's having fun? And he did his doctorate on it. And it was that thing of nobody does. Nobody knows anyone else is having fun, and yet they go along with it. And at the end, they go, well, I had fun, but I have no idea if anyone else enjoyed themselves. Yeah,
that is fascinating. Like my first degree is in psychology, and when I was at uni, there was a new course called human computer interaction, which was really interesting. But I can imagine that some of the people that were doing that course would have moved into areas like this, like from human computer interaction into like the psychology of video games and that experience, and then into role playing. But just a little plug, and it is relevant, I promise, for Urban Arcane Games, who are a local company who run D&D and other systems as professional GMs. We did, Andy Leask and I on Wednesday did an actual play in the Edinburgh Fringe with them at Venue 13, and it's available through the whole month of August on demand. And part of the money goes to charity, so please do check that out. But it was really interesting because usually we're doing a live stream on a Friday where I don't tend to look at the comments that much and you can't see the audience. It was a really different experience role playing in 2 lines of 3 with an audience looking at you and just sitting there and wondering, like, are they enjoying this? Like, are they having a good time? It's
crazy.
Quite an experience.
But you get so into it, that's the thing, and everyone's so into it that there's no moment to break out of that and go, oh, we are still having fun, by the way, because that would just ruin the whole thing. So yeah, that was really good. The podcast has been a lot of fun though, just being able to talk with so many cool different designers and things.
I want to bring this up, and thanks to everyone who's been popping stuff in the chat. Don't worry about the Discord questions. We've got through most of them anyway, but it's great to see such a lively chat on our first week back. So Will says, I've been fortunate enough to visit Ancient Robot just a few months ago, and it's a brilliant and charming shop with great expertise and an impeccable vibe. And goes on to say, what is Ancient Robot's approach to or philosophy of, you've covered this a little bit, but it's useful to ask again, curation for their shop. How do you balance the growing influx of great games with limited shelf space?
I really annoy the rest of my staff by ordering too many things that we will somehow fit on the shelf. It's more than anything. I spend a lot of time looking at what's coming out. Going to conventions, talking with designers, finding out the new things and what I think is interesting as much as anything else. We simply don't have the space to have every game that comes out, which is really irritating. But I like independent games and stuff that is doing something different. And I think there's no point buying the same game over and over. Or at least like the same game, but with a different skin. You know, I just don't think that interests anyone. So for me, it's a personal, as much as anything, it's a personal thing from having been in the industry for so long and using my own knowledge of what games are coming out and who is making them and why they're making them as well, to get these things in. I will sometimes go way out of my way and get something in. We got a fantastic game called Personal Vendetta, which I got in from one guy who made it in the States, who's an amazing artist and game designer. He's made a really, really cool game. So I had to get it shipped through personally. It means we're the only place in the UK that sells it, but I know it's a unique game that is doing something different that I know that our customer base will enjoy. It's much easier for me to do that than look and go, oh, there's a Harry Potter Double coming out. Well, I'll get that in because Double sells well. It's incredibly personal. It's due to my own stuff and chatting with the other members of staff and seeing what works well as well. It's not easy. Sometimes I have to say no to really big box things that I think are cool because they won't fit. They straight up won't fit, and that's really gutting. But it is trying to play lots of games, trying to see how mechanics are working and trying to judge that against previous things that we've had in and go, well, does that fit? Does that fill a gap that is not here already? Or is it just a reskin of this other game? Is it better reskin? Should we be getting that one in instead of this one? But yeah, it is, as much as anything, finding that thing that you know someone will like. Do you love engine builders? Even if I don't personally go, oh, I want to be playing that version of Jenga or something, I can see why someone else might enjoy that. And that's enough to go, let's give it a go, see if other people also respond in the same way, and then work on it from there.
And Martin's asked, what do you think are the most successful events you've run to help build your customers, or build your customer base, I guess, not literally build your customer.
Oh, the Lego nights, definitely.
Lego, yeah.
Oh yeah, hugely. I think it comes directly off the nights we're doing at the bookshop. So our open board game night is every Wednesday. All of them you've got to get tickets for, but that is always full. Our RPG night, massively. It's all community run. We don't prescribe what games people should run. So we have DMs who come in, all very beginner friendly as well. There's no DM who's running a 4-year campaign that then doesn't work if 3 people don't turn up. It's all drop in, drop out stuff. If it's longer, or it's like one-offs, and it's enabled to take so many people into the hobby. One person who came and played RPGs in the first 2 months of the shop open is now writing for Melsonian Arts Council, doing Troika things. And it's like he'd never played an RPG before and played his first one in the shop. So those things have been, I think, the most popular. But we also do things like being attached to Tabletop Scotland. We do a lot of tournaments. We run a bunch of things, including the Playtest Zone this year. Tags Fest, which is an independent comics and storytelling convention up at the Fruit Market, which is also amazing. We run the Board Game Zone for that too. So they've been really successful just because there's more independent stuff happening. Outside of that, it's kind of unique events, things like the launch for Deep Regrets we did, which is, again, Judson Cowan did a fantastic job with that. Dave Beckin from Paverson as well. And sometimes we do end up having kind of smaller scale during the day events on like a weekend, which is like a playtest brought in by a distribution company going, we've got a bunch of games for people to come and try, and we just give them some tables and then people can come and try those for the day. So they've been really successful with that too. Outside of that, it's kind of miniatures. My favorite one, to be honest, is the miniature painting nights. Miniature painting nights are the most chill ever. They happen every second Monday. People just come in and paint their miniatures, and there's no competition, and everyone gets to do that like individual meditative hobby, but around other people, and have some sort of camaraderie with it. And that's the most delightful night of the week for sure.
The Warhammer shop used to run like a girls' night once a month for like women and people who identify as women and girls to come and paint and play, and it was amazing. Parents, like men, were welcome if they were like accompanying women, so it wasn't like men that had to stay out. So there was a few dads that came with their daughters, and this was what, Andy, 12 years ago now.
Yeah,
I'm still in contact with some of those dads and the girls who are around about the same age as my girls. You know, we still see them. They're still like, now they're all at uni and they're all still super nerds, and it was such a lovely, big shout out to Baz, who now manages Warhammer World, who's the manager of the Edinburgh Warhammer store then, for making that happen, because it was exactly what those young girls and women and me as a young mother needed, like a safe space that we could go and not feel like people would be judging us for how we painted or how we played, and how that was different to the other people in the store. So yeah, it was an amazing like experience to have. So like your community and putting on different events with like a different vibe and a different feel, and staying like LGBTQ plus friendly, I think is really important. And we've got a couple more questions to just like whiz through. So final one from Eyeless Deceiver from the Discord. Is any advice on how to stay competitive in these days of online shops? And
so I won't sell online because that's a whole nother logistical nightmare to do. So I don't really have them as direct competitors, I guess. It's not like I'm trying to be seen on that space. With us, it's the community thing more than anything else. The fact that someone can come in, ask about games, we can tell them about it, we can talk about the things that give us joy and things like that. That has been the biggest bonus for us. There's a lot more people coming in going, I only want to do local stuff. I don't want to go online. I would rather do it from you guys. And I think that's just spreading more and more. So the only advice I would give is kind of ignore it as much as possible. We don't really heavily discount anything or anything else like that, because we're not looking at the competitive prices online and going, we need to match that. Just trying to be nice and hope that keeps working, and it's doing well so far. So
build a community, selling like an experience, not just a product. There was a question from Shadition further up, but for some reason, StreamYard is being really weird tonight and has made them all disappear. So I'll bring up Kadate.
I can bring it up. Which one do you want? Because I've got them right
we'll
here.
do this one first. Do you have a bargain bin clearance shelf? I do like a good rummage. If so, what does a game do to find itself in there?
Oh, we don't have a bargain bin clearance shelf. However, we are going to be doing our first ever sale at some point in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, that's
the
exciting.
only thing that a game has to do to be in there is probably to have been there since the first 6 months of us opening, and mainly be too big of a box. We would love to have some more space for some of these new cool games coming out. Not that these aren't good games at all. I wouldn't have got them in if they weren't, but simply that they haven't been picked up by other people. So we will have a sale very shortly. Won't be a clearance shelf, I suppose, but it will be stuff that I think has maybe just been hidden behind other prettier things.
Yeah, I do love a sale. Like when you said a sale, I'm like, I'm going to have to come in as if we need any more games in our house.
Yep.
Just love a sale.
So many.
Right. So yeah, there was one more question, Andy, but as I said, I can't find it. If you,
Shadition's got
a couple
two.
From Shadition's, yeah. So there was.
I think it was the other one. Was there another one?
This one.
Yeah, just a little bit of advice before we wrap up.
Given your experience with the physical store, oh gosh, interesting. I think listen to other people as much as anything. Don't necessarily take all of their advice on board, but getting as many people's opinions as possible. It's actually really useful just to see where your own opinions lie. Even if you disagree with everything that one person is saying, it might actually just clarify down what you want to do, and make sure that you know what you want to do. I wanted to have a space for people to enjoy themselves and have fun. And I think we were successful because we figured out how to make that happen. I think if you are starting an online game shop and you're wanting to just sell games online, is the goal to have the cool things that no one else can have, and that's why people are coming to the store? Or is the goal to make as much money as possible, in which case you're going to need a big warehouse? It's figuring out what your desire is with it. Is it just because you love games and you're like, well, maybe I can do a shop with that? Could work, very, very much so. But I think talk to other people in the industry, particularly that you're wanting to work in. Board games, everyone wants to talk to each other. Everyone wants to help each other. Chat to me. I'm always available. So, except I'm really busy all the time. But when I'm not really busy, I'm always available to talk to you about stuff. Or anyone else. Everyone really, really wants to help each other. So talk to other people. Try and get their opinions. Just try to clarify down what thing is you want. I think there's a lot that can come from here's some Japanese games that you can't really find in the UK. I can ship them in and no one else can, and then I'll specialize down that route. Something like that would be really, really good. Finding something that you can do and that you want to do that you haven't seen out there at the time. That's probably your best bet.
Thank you so much.
I've got something else I'd like to add to that, just as a small thing. We had Jens on all the way back in episode 48, and he did this. And he'd been working for Ulysses Spieler beforehand, and then he left Ulysses Spieler to set up his own online shop. And what he did to provide something that was a little bit different was he did exactly what Dougal did. He built up a sense of community. But instead of doing a physical community, he built a digital community. He used Discord for a lot of it, but he also streamed out to his customers every week, and he tried to get in contact with people who were making the games and basically start, somewhat similar to what we're doing here, start chats about gaming, discuss it with his customer base, and then through doing that, get them coming every week to learn some new stuff, drop into the community that he had online where they could play games online and do something similar to what Dougal's doing. So I would suggest just do what Dougal did, but in a way that makes you feel happy online.
Yeah, that would work too. I don't know much about the online communities as much, but yeah, if you can make a community, a fan base, or even just people who want to be part of something, and you find a space for them, that will give you more benefit, maybe not financially, but definitely personally and emotionally than anything else, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. That brings us to the end. I've managed to get through pretty much all the questions from Discord and in the chat. So thank you so much for staying an extra 5 minutes, Dougal. It's been really lovely to meet you and get to know you. Next week we have, who do we have
Tom
on?
Toner on.
Tom Toner is coming on to talk about his new book written under his author name, which I completely forget, but we will share that with you on the Discord imminently.
And I believe the plan is we're going to do something a little bit different next week as well. We're going to do his sort of, I think, extreme extraterrestrial world building, he calls it. But we're going to do something a little bit live with the chat, so you guys are going to be able to work with Tom and kind of do a bit of world.
A bit interactive. Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
so we'll check that out next week. Until then, thank you so much to everyone in the chat, as always, for making the stream really interesting and fun and throwing in unexpected questions. Thank you to everyone in Discord who pre-submitted the questions. And of course, as always, thank you so much to our wonderful patrons who help us keep our stream beautifully ad-free. Andy has shared the Patreon link in the chat, so please do check that out. And until the next time, all that remains to say is good night and caw-caw, caw-caw. See you soon.